We have an exercise to help us out today. So at this time, I'd like to introduce everyone to the chart gallery exercise. So I encourage everyone to click through on this exercise and make a copy for yourself. We'll be working for most of today's class in this exercise. At the top of this notebook, you will see some links to my notes, I believe, about different options, but we will be using the Plotly Express option because I think it's the easiest. All right, so this is our in-class version of this exercise, and I'll share the link with you. Chart gallery in class. Cool. So you could always copy some code from here, but I'll be sharing code in Slack as well, I think. All right, let's just take a look at what this exercise is about before we get into it. So what we have here at the top are some links to my notes about these different packages that we could use. It might be helpful for you to open up the Plotly Express package notes that I've created, but we'll go through some of this stuff together, and I'll be, I think, maybe copying some stuff from the notes. So great, we have some resources to check out. What we'll be doing in this exercise is that we see there are a number of different types of charts, like line charts, bar charts, scatter plots, pie charts, histograms. These are just a handful of the most popular charts that you will see and that you will need to make. But there's other types of charts too for you to explore on your own. So for each of these exercises, we will be provided a data structure, and then it'll be our responsibility to make a data viz of that data. And so for the line chart data, we'll make a line chart. For the bar chart data, we'll make a bar chart, etc. And so we have different data to facilitate these different types of charts. So what we'll need to do for each of these exercises is definitely remember to run the cell where the chart data is defined. And then we will make a chart below. So I hope this is going to be really fun. We'll do the first few examples together. And what we will see is that the data viz part of this is so easy. We'll use like a one-liner, we'll use a function, we'll provide some arguments. It's so easy. What the hard part is going to be is to actually convert the raw data into a data structure that the chart likes. So sometimes we'll work backwards, but we'll see some examples of this. So my recommended approach for you as you learn how to make data visualizations is the following. Figure out what type of chart you want to make, like a bar chart, and then go consult the official documentation for that type of chart. We'll see this in a sec. Plotly Express provides a different function for each different type of chart. And we'll have to consult the docs. We'll also see if there's any examples that are provided in the docs, and we'll see if we could just reproduce that example. Can we make a bar chart using the data that they gave us? Okay, great. And now we'll work backwards to transform our data into the same structure that the chart needs. Then we will get a chart of our data, and it might look very unpolished, and that's okay. We're using an iterative approach here. Once we see a chart of our data, then we'll revisit it and we'll try to polish it up, including some colors, some titles, maybe some other options and stuff. So that's my recommended approach, and we'll do this together. In our example, what we've done is we started with some data that is very prepared to be charted. It's just a simple list on the X and a simple list on the Y. But now let's start doing these exercise challenges. Let's focus on the line data challenge first. Let's do this together. So I'll be asking for a volunteer. Here we see that we are presented with some line data. So in a sec, I'll be asking, well, what data type is this? And then I'll be asking for a volunteer on how we might chart it. So we just did some examples of using the line function from Plotly Express, we'll want to use it again. It's just that now we'll need to crunch this data or process it into data that can be charted. So I'd love a volunteer. What data type is this line data? And do you have any thoughts about how we might chart it? I guess in order to chart it, we'll just say like px dot, we'll say import plotly dot express as px, and then we'll say px dot line x equals something, y equals something, and we could just get started there. So what is the something? We'll need to figure that out. We know that from our example so far, the values for our x parameter and y parameter need to be just a simple list of values, whether they be strings or numbers. So the real challenge here is, how do we arrive at a list of just the dates? Dates equals something, and then prices equals something. I guess if we could reverse engineer this, if we have just a simple list of the dates, we'll pass that to the x parameter, and a list of the prices, we'll pass that to the y parameter. So the charting part of this is really easy. But the data crunching is just us continuing all those kinds of exercises that we did to prepare for the midterm and the midterm, like crunch the data. So I'd love a volunteer. How could we pick apart just the dates from this line data? Just the prices. Here we just want to do some mapping operations to transform our line data into a list of dates and a list of prices. Yeah, like we'll just use our mapping operation. We could do two list comprehensions, or we could just, for a kind of loop could we do if we start like this?
It would be like for I in line data.
Yep. So for each dictionary in our list, now, could you keep going here?
Yeah, so for I in line data, and then dates dot append,
Nice.
and then I, and then square bracket state.
Perfect. Here we're referencing the date key of each dictionary as we loop through, and we are storing it in our empty list. And we could do the same for the prices. Stock price USD, I guess. All right, great. Now, when we get to the bottom, we can print our dates and print our prices. All right, so now we have the data in simple list form, and now we could easily pass these lists of simple values to our charting function, and that's it. We did it. Cool, cool. So in this case, we have our line data. We'll do some mapping operation. To arrive at the list of, or sorry, the two lists that we care about. And then finally, we'll just pass those to our charting function. And I'll leave it to you to add some title and maybe axis labels as well. So really what we see is that the challenge really isn't in the data viz part of this. These functions are so helpful and great. Like, all right, we'll add a title. We know now we could just keep stock prices over time would be our title here. And then we can give some labels as well. And that's great. All right. But really here, the challenge is getting the data into a format that the chart likes. So we kind of had to work backwards a little bit. And now let's repeat that process as we do some bar charts together. I think we'll just do bar charts together, and then we'll take the last 15 minutes maybe for you to explore scatter or pie or histogram. And then we'll take the temperature, the weather forecast bar chart for homework. All right, let's focus on bar charts. The cool thing is that Plotly Express provides us a different function for each type of chart that we want to make. And so when we want to use a line chart, we use that line chart function. When we want to use a bar chart, we'll now consult the documentation for a different function related to bar charts. So you'll see that I provided this reference here to the bar chart docs. So let's take a look. What will it be like for us to try to make a bar chart? Plotly Express bar. Whoa, so many parameters again. But the cool thing is that a lot of these parameters are the same as applicable. So for the bar chart, we also have our X parameter. What list of values should we put on the X axis? And our Y parameter. What list of values should we put on the Y axis? So really, just by choosing bar function versus line function will change the type of chart that we make, but the parameters, the style, the thinking, the technique here is the same. One note is that some different charting functions may have different parameters. Not all of them will have an X and Y. For example, like when we get into pie chart, I don't know if that has an X and Y. So you'll need to consult the specific documentation for the function that you're working with. I guess when we work with a pie chart, it has a parameter of names and values. So that's different. And so there might be some small differences based on the type of chart that we're making. But right now we're focused on the bar chart. So I guess we learned that it has an X and Y parameter as well. So that might be enough for us to actually do this bar data challenge together. So knowing that we could use this bar function from Plotly Express and that it accepts an X and Y parameter like the line function does, let's now turn our attention to the bar chart exercise. We'll remember to run this cell that has defined this bar data variable. Now I'd like a volunteer to help us make a bar chart of viewers per genre.
First, I think you would set it up the same way as the line chart. So you could do genre equals, and then I'm forgetting the name for it, but what's
like
it?
Empty list?
Yes.
Sure.
And then you do the same thing for viewers.
Yep.
And then for I and bar data, colon, genre dot append, and then parentheses I, and then brackets, you'd put genre.
Nice.
And then you do the same thing for viewers, and then
exactly. And so awesome. Thanks for this code. Now it looks like we have a list just of the genres and just of the viewers. So either coming back to you for a follow-up or a next volunteer to help us finish this out. How do we finalize this bar chart here?
You would do import plotly.express as px.
Yep.
And then do px.bar x equals genres, y equals viewers.
Awesome. X equals genres, Y equals viewers. Crushing it. Awesome. Let's take a look. All right, we did it. First, we're doing a mapping operation to just pick apart the lists of values, and then we are plotting them. Cool. Now, with the next few minutes, let's just stay on this same bar chart and iterate a little bit. So how can we improve this chart? We can add a title and axis labels, which we should do. Can I have a volunteer? How do we add a title and axis labels here? I know we did it before, but I'd just love to hear from you. We'll do this together as a collaborative exercise here. We have this bar chart. How could we put a title and labels in here?
Then we'd add another comma and then say title, at least for the parameter, equals quotations, I don't know, viewership by genre.
Yeah, viewership by genre, something like that. Okay, cool.
And then another at least comma, and then for our labels, we'd have to create a dictionary, and then use apostrophe X dot genre, or basically our variable for genre, and then apostrophe Y colon, and then what's our other one called
I
again?
think it's viewers.
Viewers. Yeah,
Yes,
viewers.
viewers. Let's do it. All right. So here we're just iterating very small additions. Does this work? What does it look like? Does it look good? Okay, great. We'll move on. So here's our next iteration of our chart. It's looking pretty good. Let's see. Now, I like for someone to just think critically about what this chart is showing us. And is there a way that we could better tell the story? Like, what story are we really trying to tell here?
You're learning which genre is like most popular.
Yes, what are the top genres, right?
Sci-fi and fantasy.
Right. So really, this is, I think, what the story that we're trying to tell here is like, well, which genres are the most popular? So in order to tell that story, we could maybe model this a little differently. There's two things that I think we could do here, just from a perspective like display standpoint. One best practice that I think we should keep in mind is that the x-axis should be reserved for time. Right now we have a bar, and we have like our bars being like vertical bars. So someone might like mistakenly, even subconsciously for a moment, think like, oh, this is like viewership over time or something like that. And I know it's not what we're showing, but if we were to flip the orientation on the bars so that they are horizontal, now there's no confusion. So maybe we could try that. But also, if we want to be telling the story, these are the top genres, I think sorting these bars would be helpful as well. So we have the top first, and then we'll just descend down. Now we'll have a super polished chart. So how do we make a horizontal bar chart? Well, it just so happens that there is a parameter for the bar function called, I think it's orientation. All right, and so what options do we have with this orientation parameter? Let's look at our options. Okay, whoa, it's a string. It should either be H for horizontal or V for vertical. The default is V for vertical. Okay, so if we say orientation equals H, let's see what that looks like. Could we do a horizontal bar? It might mess everything up, so let's try it in a new cell below. We're just iterating here. If we pass one more parameter of like orientation equals H for horizontal, let's see what that looks like. Oh no, what's going on here? I think you can kind of see some bars, but what happens here is that when we flip, the weird thing is that the lesson here is that when we flip the orientation, we had to also flip the X and Y values and labels. So what we'll really say is like Y is the genres and X is the viewers. And then I think we also need to flip the labels. Yeah, viewers will need to flip those. So that's just one weird little thing. That's like a wrinkle to keep in mind. But now we have a horizontal bar chart. We're starting to get there. The last thing that I'd like us to do together is think about, well, how could we display these bars so that the sci-fi is at the top? And then we'll really be able to tell the story of like, which are our top genres. So Does anyone think about a strategy that we could use to manipulate the data such that when we chart it, sci-fi would be first and our bars would be in order? Is there any kind of thing that we've done that might help us do this? I think if we are to sort the data before passing it to the chart, then the chart would display the sorted data. It's like when we sort some values and then loop through the sorted values, we see them sorted. Same thing goes here with this chart. So if we sort the values before charting them, then our chart will be sorted. So it's cool that we're just like building on top of a lot of the lessons that we've been learning so far with like sorting data, mapping data. This is all coming to play here in our data viz exercise. So I think we'll need to sort the genres and viewers, but right now we've already separated them. So if we sort them separately, we're now going to get a mismatch of which viewer comes with which genre. So we can't sort after we've split them. We have to sort and then split and then chart. And so if we observe that specific order, that will make this happen. So I'm just going to redo this, but we'll sort beforehand. So we'll just leave everything that we've done. But now let's sort beforehand. So to end class, we have a few minutes left. We'll just finish here together. We want to, this is our final approach. We will just plot the genres and viewers, same thing as before. So that will be the last thing we do. We will map the genres and viewers, but before doing that, we're going to sort our original data. So in our original data, we had, let's see, this bar data. We know this bar data is a list of dictionaries. What if we wanted to sort it by viewers descending? I'd love a volunteer. First, we will sort this bar data on the basis of the viewer's key descending, and then we'll just use the code that we've been using so far. So the last thing for us to do today is to sort this list of dictionaries. So I'd love a final volunteer. How could we sort this list of dictionaries? Or if you want to take this, go for it. Yeah, sorted.
I forget how, but you could also use item getter.
Yeah. So we need to use the sorted function. What is the list we want to sort? That's the first parameter. It's this bar data. Now, if the bar data was simple, like a list of numbers or a list of strings, we'd be done. But this is a complex list of dictionaries, so we do need to use that item getter function. So you can consult your notes about sorting, or if you've practiced this enough to get it into your memory, that would be good too. So from the operator module, import the item getter function. And now can someone help us finish this sorting operation? There's additional parameters that we'll want to pass, and we will want to use this item getter function. What are the parameters for this sorted function? I guess key is one of the parameters and reverse is one of the parameters. So we'll key equals item getter. And now we'll specify, we want to sort on the basis of viewers. And now our first approach would probably be, well, we also want these descending. So we'll reverse equals true. And then we know that this is not a mutating operation. So we could store this back in our like sorted bar data, for example. And now if we just take a look at this sorted bar data, will it be sorted? Yeah, here we go. Sci-fi is first, has the most viewers, and then going down. So cool. That was the hard part about how do we get a chart to display sorted values? Well, we just sort them first and then pass them to the chart like we were doing before. So the final approach here is first we'll sort the data. Now we'll just use it. So before we were mapping our original data, but now instead we'll just map our sorted data instead. And so when we do that, the same thing will happen, but it will be in a certain order and these values will still match with each other. Remember, if we sorted after we split them, we would have a different mismatched list. So that's why we had to sort first and now we split, or I guess do our mapping operation. And finally, when we chart these, we would be done. Except that we see, I guess Plotly does it in the reverse order of what we specified, which is not intuitive, but it's just something that we learned. So I guess knowing this, when we wanted to work with the data, we said reverse equals true. But when we want to chart the data, we'll say like reverse equals false, I guess. So just kind of some quirk about Plotly. We want to get this sci-fi on top. It's the top genre. So all we'll need to do, I guess, is reverse equals false. And the reason why we're reverse false, because Plotly charts the opposite order, which isn't the most helpful, but that's just something for us to realize. And once we specify the right sorting, when we look at this data, sci-fi is last, but when we chart it, we'll see sci-fi on top. Boom, there we go. So I guess here we actually want to sort in reverse order. And then map the sorted data. And then chart it. Cool. All right. I hope what you're seeing is that all of the foundation that we built so far, working with lists and dictionaries, doing mapping, doing sorting, like these are now coming in handy for practical application. So we're now reaching into this tool belt of techniques that we've been developing. And maybe we still need to reference our own cheat sheet. Oh, I forgot how to do sorting. Well, that's all good. Just use your own kind of notes, use your own cheat sheet, continue to build on it. But now we're drawing from all these examples that we've done, and we're actually putting them to use for even more practical applications. So there is a way to display colors, but I'll leave you to consult my notes about Plotly Express. In there, you'll see some notes about color. Basically just using the same data set that we're working in. So if we want to also color, I think this is not necessary because we're not telling another story with the color. Often we could color on a different attribute to kind of tell more parts of the story, but if we wanted to color, we could explore some of these color related parameters, but I'll leave you to explore that stuff. So just know that there's other color related parameters and other parameters for these charting functions. And there's a lot to explore, but I just wanted to share with you the basics so we can just kind of feel comfortable in the basics there.